How has this pre-draft process been with bringing in these guys and having them practice here? How's that been for you?
It's been a good process. Obviously, with the 4 picks, we've had a ton of guys in. I think today is our 14th workout, so we've had in over 80 guys already. The exciting part about having so many picks is the optionality it gives us, with the ability to try to package picks and to move up. Obviously, there's been some teams reach out about the 3rd pick, and we're just kind of going through all that process right now.
Travis, when you're evaluating big guys for this draft, how much do you put it in the context of what's happening in the NBA and all the switching teams do defensively and how those guys might fit, or do you just sort of look at it, the individual prospect and what you might be able to do with them?
No, you have to take into account where the league's going. The league a few years ago, as you guys all know, they changed the rules where they really put an emphasis on not allowing contact on the perimeter, but you can still, or you're still allowed to be very physical in the post. And so it really kind of changed the way the game's played. So we have to take that into account. When you look at big guys in today's game, they've got to be able to guard pick and rolls. If they can't guard pick and rolls, even if they're a tremendous offensive player, it puts your team at a huge disadvantage. So that's certainly a factor when we're evaluating all these big guys.
And yet there's so many of them who seem to be, at the top end of this draft. Does that reflect well on those particular players, or?
It means they're very athletic and can move their feet.
Yeah.
Can you comment at all about, what you're most looking for, what the team's most looking for, just positions to fill?
Yeah, no, I've maintained all along, and I honestly believe this, we're going to take the best player. We're in a situation where we're looking to add the most talent we can, and we're going to get a good player at the 3rd pick.
Do you do draft scenarios where, okay, player A is off the board, what if team, chooses this?
No, that's basically all we're doing now is going through all the different scenarios that might happen. Obviously, it's a little bit easier to do with the 3rd pick than it's the 9th pick, and when you get to the 30th pick, it's a little harder. But we're just in the process of trying to go through all those different scenarios and see who might be there.
You mentioned trading up. I know that there's possibilities to trade down, but as far as trading up, I would assume that you don't want to get rid of any of the assets that you built up as far as draft picks and young guys, or is that in play?
No, I mean, listen, there's 2 times a year where you look at making moves, and that's a trade deadline, and then this time of year with the draft and free agency. So we're going through all those different scenarios, trying to evaluate whether the players in this draft would be players that we would value over, the assets we have stockpiled. Certainly looking at it through the other lens, where we're going to look to see if the picks we have, where we move back to collect more assets, would be advantageous, and all the hypotheticals that we talked about a minute ago, those are all the hypotheticals we're going through.
With it's kind of unique to have 4 picks in the top 34. Do you anticipate that might break from a tradition of draft and stash type guy?
There's a few of those guys in the draft, as you're aware. A lot of them pulled out this year, but there's obviously still a few European guys out there. We'll take a look at all those scenarios as well. One of the things you've seen in the past, some is guys where you would draft them and they would either agree to go play on your G League team for a year or they go overseas for a year. And those are all conversations that we'll have with guys. But as I've said from the beginning, certainly not scared of adding 4 rookies to our team next year. We have the roster spots for that, so it's certainly an option as well.
In evaluating the bigs in this class, how much of a consideration is it the way that they would potentially pair with John Collins?
It's obviously a consideration, but I think with John, what he was able to prove last year is he can play both big spots. And when you look at all the big guys in this class with their athleticism and their length, I think the majority of these guys are going to be able to play both big spots as well.
Travis Schlenk, Lloyd Pierce was at Falcons practice yesterday with Dan Quinn. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. If you are aware, do you know what they were kind of talking about? What was he trying to gain from being at Falcons practice? Is any kind of draft advice, or what was he up there kind of?
No, it wasn't draft advice. He just wanted to go up there and kind of see how they run things. He came back and he was very impressed with how quickly they go through their practices. He just wanted to go up there and see how the NFL team does compared to the NBA team with their training camp stuff.
With the new coach and just, do you sense like the hype around Atlanta and around this draft and just with the new staff and everything?
Unfortunately, I don't get out a whole lot, but I hope there's hype out there.
With Lloyd, he has he's a defensive-minded coach, obviously, and he has a system that he used in Philadelphia, and he's talked at length about that. Keep that in mind as you go through this draft.
Coach is involved with the process for certain, and obviously when you look at the best teams in the league, majority of the time they're good defensive teams, but at the end of the day, if you're not scoring 100 points, you're probably not winning. So, we're going to look for guys that are two-way players, can play defensively, but also we got to be able to score the ball on the other end.
How's this, been different for you having a top high pick and being, the GM as opposed to when you're in Golden State?
Yeah, this is the highest pick that I've been a part of. In Golden State, the highest pick we had was 6th. So it's exciting. Having the 4 picks along with the 3rd picks we get a lot of phone calls, which is exciting as well. And we're going to go through all the different options presented to us and make the best decision, hopefully.
How difficult is it to evaluate, these big guys who may not have had an opportunity to stretch the floor or to, be out on the perimeter offensively, when that is sort of where the NBA is going? How do you evaluate that potential?
Well, a lot of them nowadays, especially when they get their name into the draft and they start working out, they do work on their three-point shot. I mean, these kids, all from the time that they're 12 years old, I mean, when you go watch a junior high game, the first thing kids do is run the three-point line. They don't start inside anymore. So most of these kids have that skill set. Everybody wants to play on the perimeter.
When you have 19 and 20-year-olds, how do you evaluate their career prospects for when they're 25 and 30 and how motivated they'll be?
That's the hard part about this, right? Is trying to project what an 18, 19-year-old kid's going to be when he's 24, 25. And that's where, taking these kids to dinner, interviewing them in Chicago, spending time with them here, trying to find out what motivates them and what they want out of their career. I should have been a psychology major, but I wasn't, so I'm just playing amateur psychologist and all this.
And how do you evaluate players that you didn't get to bring in for a workout or see at the combine?
So that's when the agent workouts come into play. All the agencies now have their pro days, so we attend those. In some situations, if we can't get a player in because they don't think we're going to take them 3 and they're going to be gone by 19, we'll go out and watch them work out if they didn't have a pro day. We just try to get our eyes in front of them as much as we can, but a lot of that has come if they played 1 year or 2 years, 3 years of college. We've seen them multiple times in the October, all through the college season, our scouts that go to practices. So they've been seeing it. It's hard to hide from us.
As somebody who helped architect everything that Golden State has become now, is it almost faster to kind of build that kind of team with the copycat success and skill set? Now, I mean, a lot of these players in this draft this year have a lot of Steph Curry to their game, or a lot of Draymond to their game. Is it almost faster to build a dynasty like that nowadays, in your opinion?
Well, I hope it's fast, but I don't necessarily anticipate it will be. I will say that when I started in the front office in Golden State, we're in a much better place with our salary cap structure and the picks that we have acquired. But I've said all along, listen, the draft is not an exact process. It takes a little bit of luck. Whether it was when we were able to draft Steph Curry and Minnesota takes back-to-back point guards right in front of us, we catch a lucky break there. Klay Thompson slipping to 11th, Draymond being there at 35. It takes a little bit of luck.